up, Daddy Gang? It is your founding father, Alex Cooper, with Call Her Daddy.
Rachael Kirkconnell, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
Thank you.
Obviously, you're going through a very, very public breakup right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not under the best circumstances that we're sitting down together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a shock to the world. We're going to find out today if it was a shock to you, but just like overall, how are you doing right now?
It's different every day. I'm doing okay. I would say some days are better than others. Like one day I'm like feeling kind of empowered. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's okay. Like I'm excited to be on my own. And then the next day I like can barely get out of bed and I just miss him and I'm sad about everything. So yeah, it just comes and goes. It's different every day.
I think that like why I especially want to talk to you today and what we're going to get into though is like even you just saying that is so relatable. Like probably everyone watching this has been through a breakup and a breakup is like not linear where you're like one day like, oh my God, I'm perfect again. So like I appreciate you being honest because breakups are so emotionally devastating and hard, especially if you're the one getting broken up with. I obviously want to talk to you about everything that's happened. But first, I do think it's kind of important we just kind of go back to like when you met Matt on The Bachelor. Why did you want to go on that show?
Oh my gosh. It's actually a funny story. I didn't want to go on the show.
Okay.
Did not sign myself up for the show. My friends nominated me and they didn't tell me that they nominated me. I think they put in just some, the filled out the online thing and I got a call. I was grocery shopping. It was like middle of COVID. So I'm getting this call from a random LA number and I'm like, that's so weird. Like who's trying to reach out to me right now from LA? But I was grocery shopping, so didn't answer. Got a text from the same phone number. Didn't open the text. I was like, I thought it was like a job. I was applying for jobs everywhere. It was like one of those things where it was like, I don't think anyone knew what was going on in the world. So I just was seeing what could happen. And so I thought it was a job getting back to me. And then I got a voicemail. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to call these people back if like they're actually, trying to set up an interview with me or something. So I get to my car and I immediately listen to the voicemail and it's someone from The Bachelor saying they received an application from me. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank. I texted my friends. I'm like, well, who did this? Like, what's going on? So 3 of my friends started freaking out and they were like, oh my gosh, we filled out an application for you like months ago. So it's real. I didn't think it was an actual thing. And at first I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be the villain or I'm going to be like one of the crazy girls. I didn't know how it worked. So I was like, I'm going to be, I don't know, just it's not going to go well for me. So at first I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That sounds crazy. And then I did have a call with them and they were like, you know what, just go with the process and just see. Like my friends were like, just see what they even want from you. Like I just want to see the ins and outs. So I was like, okay. So I started doing interviews and I still was like really nervous about it, really not feeling it, but it was COVID and it was just like let's just see where this goes. Then they announced Matt in June, I think, as The Bachelor. And that's when I was like, wait, okay. He's very, very attractive. He seems like a great guy and I would love to get to meet him.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, actually this would be really fun if given the opportunity. And I don't think any of us found out. I think like 2 weeks before we had to fly out, we got like the okay if we were on the show or not. So I had 2 weeks to like decide if I wanted to do it, get all my shit together. And,
Wait, why do you think your friends applied you? Like, had you come out of a breakup? Were you chronically single? Like, what was your vibe?
I think at the time, a lot of my friends were in relationships and I wasn't. And my friends loved the show. I don't know if they really watch so much now, but at the time, loved The Bachelor. I think it just whose season? I think it was Pilot Pete's season, right?
Oh my God.
And it was a shit show. It was great TV,
Yeah, it was.
So that was like peak Bachelor, I would say.
Oh my God.
So my friends were like, we need to get one of our friends on this show. And I mean, it was like me and I think 2 other girls in our group were single and they just were like, we need to apply Rachael. We think she'd be great.
Had you been in a serious relationship before The Bachelor?
Honestly, not like an adult, like serious relationship. I think my last relationship was a year before that. It was about 6 months. And it was with like one of my best friends growing up. We were just always like, had feelings for each other. So we gave it a shot. And it just was one of those things where we probably should have just stayed friends.
Classic.
And it wasn't even him. It was just more so me. Like I was just going through a hard time or a weird time in my life. And I was like, I don't need to be in this relationship, especially with like one of my best friends. And now to this day, our relationship's weird, but
That's like the worst when I have people write in all the time and they're like, should I go for my friend? And I'm like, my advice is just prepare that it will never be the same. So, but I also like commend you for like going for it, because then also then the other side is you always have the what if, like, would we have been perfect? So I guess like hearing that though, like, was there any part of you knowing how The Bachelor works that you were nervous at all that like this is something that ends in engagement after a couple weeks of knowing someone?
I think like it was one of those things where I couldn't even believe it was happening. Couldn't even believe that I kept making it through these interviews and that I got the call and that they actually wanted me on the show. I, I feel like, I don't know, I told myself like, I'm kind of boring. Like, I don't know if I would be good TV for this show. I guess I was confused why they wanted me on the show.
Yeah.
And so I think the whole time, even when I got there, I'll never forget walking very first night, walking out of my hotel room and seeing one of the girls. She's so stunning, so perfect. Her name's Sarah. I saw her and I was like, I'm screwed. Like all of these girls are so stunning, gorgeous, seem perfect. And I just was wondering like why I was there really. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, I guess like I just hope I make it past this first night. So I guess I didn't really think too much about an engagement only because I didn't think I would ever get that far.
I think that makes sense. And I think sometimes with The Bachelor too, like people would be like, so you weren't going in for an engagement? Like, I don't think anyone goes in with that headspace. I think it's kind of more your situation where you're like, I'm throwing myself into this situation. There's no way I'm going to end up at the end. And
there was like 40 girls on our season too.
Right.
So I'm like, what are the odds out of 40 plus or, 36 to 40 girls? Why would he pick me? I don't know. I was like, there's just no way that out of all these women that he would be interested in me of all people.
What was your first impression like in person of Matt when you met him?
I don't want to say like love at first sight, but definitely just like total infatuation, like right off the bat. I feel like we had a connection immediately. And it's funny though, because I'm sure all the girls say that when they first get in, like we clicked or we sparked or whatever. But I think he would agree with that we both just felt a connection immediately. And it felt very comfortable. And like we were just talking to each other like there weren't a million cameras and a million people around. We were talking about like Waffle House and, just stupid things that they probably were angry that we were chatting about because they were like, this is not good TV.
Right. They're like, let's ramp it up.
Yeah.
Like either make out or get in a fight. And you guys like, but Waffle
And that
House?
was like every conversation we had was just like, we were just talking about stupid stuff that wasn't good for TV. But to us, it was just natural, normal, fun, easy conversation.
Yeah, it's like the real shit in life. Like
exactly.
It's not going to be all glamour once you guys leave. You guys may be literally going to Waffle House and like you'll want to be chilling.
The show is like, they're like, tell us your deepest, darkest secrets and your trauma, and it's like, I'm sure you'll get there eventually, but I'm not going to like tell someone that 2 minutes into knowing them, I guess, so.
What was the moment that like really made you realize like, oh my God, I'm fully falling in love with this guy?
I think it was like right before our one-on-one. I didn't get a one-on-one until like the 5th week of filming. I was pretty late in the game to get a one-on-one. And I don't know, just like what little time we would have together, it was just so easy. And I hadn't like clicked or just sparked with someone like that maybe ever in my life, just like right off the bat, just like so into each other, and then it was definitely like solidified on our one-on-one. We spent the whole day together And I was like, okay, I can really see myself with this person. And you always have to ask yourself, like, is this is this just infatuation because we're in like this romantic setting and we're getting, all this incredible treatment and you're literally in a fairy tale. So it's easy to fall in love or fall hard in that situation. But even with all of that, like knowing that was in my head, thinking about it, I still felt like, no, this is real.
Yeah. Like you knew if we step outside of this, I still feel like no matter, if anything, like there's a chance you were excited to get out of that to like live real life.
For sure.
Your guys
By the end, yes.
Right? Obviously your guys' season ended pretty unconventionally. You got the final rose, but Matt didn't propose. How did you feel about that decision?
So, like I said, at first, engagement wasn't even in the back of my mind. Like I just wasn't even thinking that was ever something that would happen to me. But then I think when we finally told each other we were falling in love with each other on our one-on-one, I was like, all right, this could be a very big possibility now. So it's definitely something that I have to think about. But it was one of those things where it felt like it was out of my control because I wasn't the one handing out roses at the end of the day. So it was one of those things where I told myself, like, if we do make it to the end of this and he proposes to me, of course I would say yes. The proposals on The Bachelor are just interesting because I think you've seen plenty of couples. Re-propose and say like, this is the actual engagement. And I'm not saying that the engagements aren't real on the show, but I think now having been through it all, it would be so crazy to get engaged to someone you barely knew.
Yeah.
And you've only known each other for a few weeks. And so I was totally okay with that. We had a conversation off camera.
Okay.
About not getting engaged. I knew that was coming.
Okay.
I didn't know if the show would convince him that he needed to do it or that he realized he should do it. So I told myself, like, if it were to happen, I would say yes, but I didn't expect it to happen.
Yeah. So you were like fully on the same page, like it's okay if he doesn't propose, like if anything you're having conversations off camera. And did he come to you and be like, hey, what was that conversation like?
So that was during Fantasy Suites. That's
okay.
like the most time you get off camera. So we were just talking about what that final day would look like. And I think that we were both worried about production having like little tricks up their sleeve, which ended up, us not getting our final date. And I remember Chris Harrison showing up to my door telling me that Matt's really confused and he doesn't want to see me. And at first I'm laughing because I'm like, this is so you guys, this is not him. But then I have a meltdown because I'm like, well, whoever it is, I don't get my last date now. And, we don't get like our last moment together before all of this ends. And now I'm going into this proposal feeling terrible and feeling very insecure and just weird about the whole thing. Like it was a really heavy feeling on the day. But I knew, as soon as he said he couldn't propose, it was one of those things where I was like, not disappointed, but I just was thinking like, okay, you're not proposing, but are we still going to be together? I guess I was like, what's true, what's not true? Are you about to break up with me? Are you about to leave? Like, are we about to not be together or do you still want to be with me? So then when he was like, I still want to be with you, I want to try this out in the real world, I was excited. But the rest of felt like they were literally breaking down the set as we were still doing like our final. They were done. They were like,
stop.
A waste of a seat. Yeah, they were just, it felt like a failure, like, because they didn't get an engagement out of it.
I'm dying. They're literally breaking it down. They're like, fuck you guys. We wanted him down on one knee.
Yeah.
But what I do, like, I think a lot of people respect about that is like, we've all seen like people on social media now and everything is like less romanticized as maybe it was back in the day because of social media. And we get kind of like glimpses behind the scene of like what actually reality TV is not so reality in moments. But I do think there was a level of respect maybe people had of like, wow, if anything, maybe that means he and her will actually work out because they're
Mhm.
literally going to do even more work off camera now rather
Yeah.
than we have seen couples be like, yay, and then they like don't even last 2 weeks
Yeah.
past it. So I think that there was a sentiment of like maybe he is more real for making that decision in the beginning.
Well, that's what I thought
Right.
at the time. Like when we're having that conversation off camera, I'm thinking like, wow, he's so level-headed, and I love the idea of like us one day getting engaged for us and not for an
Mhm.
audience and not for people that like won't care in a week or two.
Yeah. Obviously, then you guys film, and then as the show was airing,
Mhm.
some controversial photos of you came to
Mhm.
light. And during the final episode, Matt basically made it pretty clear like he was going to take a step back from the relationship.
Mhm.
What was really going on with you guys?
I think that he felt so much pressure with just how the state of the world was, or the state that the world was in at the time with Black Lives Matter. And that was the year after George Floyd. And it was like just such a heavy topic in our country at the time. And then, of course, all of the controversy within the show did not help. And I think he felt so much pressure to just make the right decision and to stand by what was right for him at the time.
Mhm.
And, you know, strangers and people that were really close to him in his life were saying, like, I don't think you should be with her. And so I think at the time he thought that was the right decision, just to take a step
Yeah.
back and, yeah, not be together.
How did you feel about all that? And like, how was it articulated to you?
It hurt because it felt like he was doing it for others and not for himself. It felt like he didn't want to not be with me, and he did want to be with me, but he just felt so much pressure from everyone
Yeah.
to not be with me. And so even to this day, like, I think a lot of people have a lot of opinions on that, like what was the right decision, if he should have stood by me or not. And I never held that over his head. I never will hold that over his head because I don't know how he felt in that situation, and I never will understand. And I know that he thought he was making the right choice and the right decision, and I'll stand by him, you know, forever
Yeah.
with that. That was okay.
Yeah.
As much as it hurt, it was, yeah, one of those things where I'm like, you know what, you do need to do what's best for you in the situation, and I understand.
So you guys end, but was it like, we're going to take a break, but we're still going to talk? Were you guys like completely done? Like, did you think this relationship is completely over? Like, what were the next steps after that kind of ended?
So I was definitely shocked when he broke up with me, only because we were very happy together. Even with all of the chaos around us, when it was just me and him behind closed doors, it was amazing. It was so much fun. We were so happy when we decided to not let the outside noise get to us. So I don't know. It was one of those things where we broke up and he said we're broken up, but we did still talk like every single day. I think we went like a few days without talking at first when we first broke up.
Mhm.
And then after that, it was one of those things where we just started slowly speaking again. And it was one of those things for me where I was like, are you happy? Like, are you happy with this decision? Like, do you think that you'll be okay moving forward without, you know, at least just seeing if this is real, like we both think it is?
Yeah.
And yeah, we slowly just started talking again. And I think after the final episode aired and there was a big group that was mad that we weren't together. Like there was, of course, the people that were like, you know, good job. Yes, you shouldn't be with her. But then there was this group after the finale because there was a lot of speculation, but no one was 100% sure if we weren't together or not until
Yeah.
he said on the show. So I think when we saw how many people were like, you should just be together, like, what the heck? I think we both had to sit down and have this conversation of like, okay, let's put all of this outside noise aside. Let's put everyone aside. What do we want?
Yeah.
Like, how do we feel? And we just came to the conclusion that we really do love each other and we really do want to make this work, or at least give it a chance. Like,
Yeah.
let's give it a fair chance, even with all the craziness. And we did. And it was great. Even with, I mean, I think that first year was hard, but
I was gonna say, like, I think I remember like seeing things on me chronically online, Reality Steve. I'm like, how do I even know that name? But I remember like when you guys were kind of in what seems like this in between, like I was going to ask, like, were you talking to other people? Was he talking to other people? Like, did you guys have an agreement? Like, it's okay if we hook up with other people?
mhm.
Like, what was the,
We never really discussed that. I think like I was barely getting out of bed, let alone dating other people. Like I was just so not okay and I just wanted to be with him, to where dating, that was just like so out of the question for me. Like that wasn't even a thought I had in the back of my mind. And I felt like when we were talking, we never discussed it, but I felt like things that he said and, us talking every day, it seemed like he wasn't either, but that was not the case. He definitely was. And that's okay because we were broken up. I
Yeah.
just wish I knew,
yeah. How
because
did
I
you
found
find
out,
out?
I found out via Reality Steve. Well, he contacted my, well, now she's my sister-in-law, but Reality Steve contacted my brother's girlfriend at the time and she told me, and I was with Matt.
What did he say?
So he basically said that there was a girl that reached out to him saying like, Matt and me have been speaking. He's been trying to get me to come over and hang out. And I just saw that him and Rachel were seen together in New York when he was literally just trying to hang out with me like 2 days prior. And I don't think she knows. So I just want her to know. And so I was given that information. And I was just, I was really, really upset just because I felt like it was definitely kept a secret from me. He technically didn't lie because I never asked, but at the same time, I never would have. Well, maybe he did lie a little bit. Now I'm trying to think about it. Maybe there were some lies in there because I was very, very, very upset when I found everything out. And I just remember telling him that he lied to me.
Yeah.
So with all of that, I just remember storming out of his place and I was like, don't ever talk to me again. Like, we're done. Because I just found out a lot of stuff all at once. And yeah, I just was definitely a little bamboozled
Yeah.
for sure. So then, like, we go another week without talking. And long story short, he ends up being in Atlanta for work. And I'm at my friend's apartment. And the hotel they put him in is right next to my friend's apartment. Like, we could throw a rock at it, you know? And yeah, I think he saw my location. He saw it was like literally 100 feet from him. And he was like, I understand you probably don't ever want to talk to me again, but can we meet just so I can apologize and just, share my side of things? And I said yes. And we sat in my car. I wouldn't let him come up to her apartment.
Classic.
So I met him downstairs and we sat in my car and talked for like 6 hours, just sitting in the parking garage. And he explained everything. I heard him out. And it was just one of those things where he was like, just give me a chance. I'm sorry. And I do love you and I do want to be with you. And I'm done, playing these games. Like, let's give this a real shot. Let's get back together.
Mm.
So I said, okay. I gave him the chance because I loved him.
When you got back together, coming off of that,
Mhm.
coming off of the dynamic on The Bachelor, like, did you have a hard time trusting him?
1000%. So I told myself, like, he has a lot to move on from with me, and then I have a lot to move on from with him. So we both need to decide, like, if we really do want to be together, we need to forgive and move on. And I think that's a lot easier said than done. I just was really insecure the first year of our relationship. I think it was everything that happened, of course, but also that power dynamic, like him being the lead of, a dating show and me just being a contestant. And yeah, I felt like there was always that just not imbalance of power, but it definitely felt like he was like the star and I was just, his little like groupie or something. And it's not like anything he did. It was just, I think that probably every couple that comes from the show might have a little bit of difficulty in that area of like, you were this person that 40 women were fighting over and that everyone's obsessed with. And then I'm just, some girl.
Yeah.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And so, and then even, yeah, going out publicly, it seemed like I told myself that the world hated me, that everyone hated me, but everyone loved him. And so I feel like when we would go out, it'd be like, oh, Matt James and Rachel. Like, I don't know. And I don't know if that was in my head or not, but that's just how it felt.
Yeah.
So I definitely felt, and it was one of those things where I'm like, he could get anyone. He could have anyone. Like, why is he with me? And so when he would go do things without me, I'd be like, there's probably like someone hotter and cooler and more fun than me hitting on him right now. And like, why is he even with me? Yeah, just really, really insecure. I felt like I had a hard time trusting him because of what was happening when we were apart.
Okay.
And that girl coming to Reality Steve and everything, I'm
Yep.
just like
Yeah.
asking myself, like, are you still doing this? But I know to this day, like, and I even see this online now, he's not a cheater.
Mhm.
I never actually had to worry about him cheating on me because technically, if he was ever with other women, we were apart. So I can't, call him a cheater or worry about him cheating on me.
Was that the only time that you guys were apart and he was with another woman, or was there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from your understanding, the 4 years of your relationship, he was faithful to you.
Yes. I think I see a lot of that right now because I reposted a funny video on TikTok of like some girl, I don't know, doing something to her best friend's ex-boyfriend. So now everyone's thinking that. But that was before we even broke up. So
the first year was difficult, but then there's 3 years to come that, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like seemed like you guys were so happy. Every time I opened Instagram, you guys were in a new city or a new country and you were trying different foods and you were, being thrown into these beautiful other cultures and experiences. And it just felt like you guys were on this whirlwind together. Like, how did that lifestyle of just constantly going and traveling together feel?
I think at first it was so fun. Like I couldn't believe that my life was what it was. I just went from being this normal person to going on this crazy dating show, actually falling in love, being with the guy, and then we're doing these really fun experiences that I would have never done otherwise. So it was so much fun. Even through like all the insecurities and everything. But I think for the first like 2 years, it was just fun dating, not really too worried about like a proposal and marriage. I mean, we definitely always had those conversations, but I don't think either of us were in a rush yet. Like, I think those first few years, it felt like a normal relationship.
Yeah.
I think in like the real world, dating for a few years without a proposal or marriage is normal.
Yes.
So that's what we were both telling ourselves. Like, we just want to have the most normal relationship possible because it definitely started out very unconventionally and it still is crazy just having, strangers care about your relationship. It's great sometimes, but yeah, other times it's a lot. So it was just really not, it was, I hate saying it wasn't too serious, but it was just more fun and really getting to know each other and just dating. And then I think like last year, our third year, well, I guess that was 2 years ago now, yeah. So I guess our third year of dating was when I started to just ask like, okay, so where is this going? Like what? I didn't ever want a timeline of things. I never wanted to know like when a proposal was coming. I think like some girls these days, like they want to know when it's coming. They want to pick the ring out. They want to pick their outfit out. And I always told him, like, I don't want to know anything. I want to be so shocked, so surprised. But I do want to know that that's where your head's at and that we're on the same page. So
And what would he say?
he seemed like he was on the same page. Like, that's why it's try not to cry.
It's okay.
It was like just confusing to look back on now because when we would talk about things, he always seemed like he was on the same page, privately and publicly. Whether we were doing interviews or whether he was replying to people in comments, like talking about getting married and everything like that. So, yeah, I guess it's just hard to think about. It's just one of those things that you replay a lot over and over again, because the words were there and, us talking about taking the next steps, all of that was fine, but, the actions obviously weren't there.
I was going to say, like, from my understanding, obviously you spent 4 years together, but
Mhm.
you never lived together.
No, so, like, that was another thing. He said that he didn't want to live together until we were married, and he's a very religious man, so I was like, "That's okay, I can do that." But at the same time, I'm a little confused because we're still, traveling together, staying in the same hotel, and it was like we were living together, like,
Yeah.
half of his stuff is still at my place in Georgia right
Mhm.
now, but he always had an apartment in Miami or New York, so we were either in New York, Miami, or in Atlanta, and I think at the time, I just didn't worry about it too much because it was fun. I feel like whenever we would talk about our life, we would say, like, we want multiple homes anyways, like, to be or just,
Yeah.
a little space here and there, like a home somewhere, but it'd be fun to have to keep the apartment in Miami or keep the apartment in New York, and so I think that I was making excuses for it because it was one of those things where we were saying that that was gonna be our life anyways, so I guess I just didn't think too much on it, but I also think it was me trying to justify it
Yeah.
just because I didn't want to worry, like, well, is this, like, fear of, like, taking the next steps? Of course, you don't wanna admit that to yourself.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, looking back on it, maybe that's is what it was, but
Did you have any friends or your family be like, Rachel, how are you guys not living together yet?
no, only because
The religious.
yeah, well, it was like we basically did live together, at least
Mhm.
in Georgia. It was like our house. Like, that's
Okay.
where home base was for us, I would say. Like,
Mhm.
that's where most of his stuff was. That's obviously where all my stuff is,
Mhm.
and whenever we weren't traveling, that's where we would be.
Okay.
So, it did feel like we were living together, but at the end of the day, it was my place. I don't know. Yeah, so it was just one of those things where looking back, that was probably a red flag,
Yeah.
but I just tried to tell myself that it was okay.
When you say that you guys talked about engagement,
Mhm.
do you mind sharing just like how detailed did you guys get? Like, did you talk about how many kids? Did you talk about where you like, can you share?
Yeah, I honestly think we talked about family and kids more than anything, which is like that sucks more than anything, I think, because I think when you picture your life or you have an idea of what it's gonna look like, and now I'm like, I have no idea what life looks like from here on out, and yeah, it's sad to, like, think about these I'm trying not to laugh at myself, but, like, yeah, I'm, like, picturing these kids that are obviously, like, no longer a thing, which, like, kinda sounds crazy. I'm not trying to sound like an insane person,
You
but
you don't sound crazy.
that's probably, like, one of the saddest things about it is just picturing your life with someone and thinking, like, that is how your life's gonna look, and then now it's just all taken away. But, yeah, we talked about rings. He told me a few months ago to start, you know, saving some things, picking things out, or that we should go look at some, and, that was a big deal, I would say, for him to say. that's when I was like, wow, okay, he really is like on board with this. Like that was such a green flag to me. And I felt like the longer we were together, the more he was able to talk about it. And I think at first I could tell it was something that did scare him a lot, or it was like a really hard thing for him to talk about. And it just seemed easier and easier as our relationship went on. So I felt like that was a good sign.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I don't know. I think when he started talking about kids and picking out a ring and wedding food and where we want the wedding, like stuff like that, um, I used those things to just hold on, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if there were any actions following those things, but when you're told these things, you just like want to hold
Yeah.
on to them.
When you look back at those conversations, do you see any like patterns or themes of like when he would engage in it? Like, was it when you were like, you know what I mean? Like, was there any like him engaging, being like, I want you to be the mother of my children. Like, I want to have a wedding. Like, did you ever see a pattern?
Um, I definitely would. I'm sure I would bring it up more, but it wouldn't ever be in like a pressure kind of way. It would just like come naturally in a conversation, but he seemed more than happy to talk about things
Yeah.
too. And I don't know, it wasn't like a pattern of, I think for at the end of the day when I think about things, like the words were there but the actions weren't.
Yeah.
Like they weren't matching. So he would say these things, but then okay, well what are you doing to get to this, if that makes sense? Like what are we doing actively to have an engagement and plan a wedding and all of this stuff? You know, like you said that we can go look at rings, but okay, is that going to happen? You know, because it was one of those things where I was like, okay, he said that, but I'm going to let him bring it back up if he meant it, you know?
That's tough. Because from what I'm hearing from you too, it's like you're again kind of like waiting for him to engage in some capacity, and it's like kind of on his terms. And it's that's really hard. I'm sorry, because it's hard to break then that pattern of like when someone is kind of the one in control to get to just feeling like we're in a partnership and it's not me kind of like tiptoeing and seeing if you're interested. Like it's hard to break that cycle.
Yeah, it's just it's such a weird thing to begin with, because at the end of the day, like it's mostly men who propose.
Yeah.
Like it's of course different for everyone these days, but everyone's like, yeah, she's on his timeline. She's on his timeline. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, he's the one that needs to get down on a knee.
I think in a beautiful way, and this is what I know we're about to get there, but like just cutting to the other side of it for you is like, I've been there where I felt the same exact way, where I was like, he talks about the house in Westchester with me and we're like together, but I still like nothing has happened yet. Like I can tell you now, having a partner, that it does feel super like 50-50 and everything with my husband. Like I wasn't surprised at all when, oh my God, his name is Matt too. When Matt, but like when Matt would like bring things up about future or like, let's go ring shopping together. Like where in previous relationships I was, and I think I recognized because I had never had it, which I'm like hopeful for you to experience, of like, we were so in lockstep that I could have gotten down on one knee. You know what I mean? And so I think I get what you're saying. And I think a lot of women experience this where like we condition ourselves to believe like it is his decision at the end of the day. And I think unfortunately, like that's not how it should be. Yes, the gesture for him physically getting on the knee is so romantic and fun, but like you should still have a say in whether it's going to happen or not, and not have to wait for someone to do that for you. And I think a lot of women are going to be sitting listening to this interview being like, fuck, Rachel, like there may be women listening to this that are realizing right now, Rachel, like they're in the same situation as you. Is like he keeps saying these things, the words are there, but the actions aren't.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like over the course of your relationship, we're talking about engagement, we're talking about a wedding. Did Matt ever express any doubts about your guys' future together?
I think there were times in our relationship where I don't want to say he seemed scared, but I think that he felt the weight of marriage really heavily on him. And I think that's for him to discuss, like, why he felt like that. I never knew if it was because there was something wrong with me, or like not wrong with me. I keep trying to tell myself that there's nothing wrong with me, even though, like, of course it feels like it sometimes. But I ask myself, like, is it me or is it him? Like, is it something that he needs to figure out? You know, is there something that scares him? Is there something that he went through growing up that, you know, he has this trauma now? Or am I just not like his perfect person?
Yeah.
So I would just say I still don't know. I think like time will tell, and I think that he'll have to answer that and figure that out.
Yeah.
But
Obviously every couple like has their problems. Like no couple is perfect. For you and Matt, like what would typically trigger an argument?
we really didn't argue a lot. When we would argue, it would more so be like someone did something to piss the other person off, and then I don't know, it was like I guess we were both pretty stubborn. So we both thought that we were in the right and that they were in the wrong. And we just had a hard time seeing eye to eye sometimes. Like I was always trying to remind him that we are on the same side, and the problem is the problem. Like we're arguing like this when it should be like, okay, we're a team. Here's the issue. How can we fix this together? It was either that, or it was just acting out of, like, in the moment, acting out of anger and not meaning things. So then it was one of those things where I was like, okay, if we're ever annoyed or irritated, let's just, you know, take a breather. Let's not talk for a second and really try to figure out what the actual problem is, like where this anger is stemming from, and then we can discuss it.
Was there someone in the relationship that would like apologize first more often?
This is what's crazy is I feel like I was apologizing a lot. Even if I was the one that was mad about something, we would sit down and I'd be like, I'm annoyed about this. And then at the end of the conversation, I would be the one that would be saying sorry. And I started feeling crazy. But at the end of the relationship, he basically said that I have a hard time taking accountability and apologizing. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm going crazy because I feel like I do say sorry a lot for things that I'm not even like sure what I'm saying sorry for, you know?
Right.
But that's maybe that was his argument that I wasn't understanding. I think that we just had
No, Rachel.
hard times understanding where we were each coming from. And now I still feel crazy, you know? I'm like,
First of all, you're not crazy. And what you just said, one of my really close friends just went through where she was like, I'm always the one having to take accountability. And he's getting so mad at me if like I don't own it. But I'm like, but like I
like,
didn't
am I like, yeah, why am I
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's
We're
what I
in this
felt.
fight because you did this and somehow I'm upset and then I'm having to that's not healthy. That's not fair to you because when you look back, why do you think you were so quick to take accountability in arguments even if it wasn't your own problem?
Because he was just so like adamant that I have a hard time like admitting I'm wrong or taking accountability. And so when your partner is telling you those things, like you want to believe them, you want to be like, okay, if this really is like a problem I have and something that you're really upset about, then of course, like, I want to try to do what I can to fix that. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever know.
The feeling of leaving an argument and not feeling like you both won, there is no winning. It's like, oh God, we, like you kind of said, like we came together and we solved that together. Like, how did you feel a lot of times when you would apologize? Like, and then you walk away from that situation after like the 50th time? Like, did it start to weigh on you?
Um, I would say it didn't weigh on me in the sense that it made me angry, but it almost worried me that he was gonna leave me or break up with me or that I wasn't good enough. Um, I think like when you're told that you're the one in the wrong, then you're like, okay, so what can I do to be better or be a better partner? Um, yeah, now looking back on it, I have to ask myself like, was it deserved or not? I don't know, but yeah, it was one of those things where I went into the conversation irritated with him, and then I leave the conversation like hoping that he's not irritated with me and that I'm sorry and I want him to not be mad at me. Like, you start to lose your mind a little bit.
Let's talk about the breakup. Daddy gang, let's talk about dating. Okay, I know I am married, but don't get it twisted. So many of my friends are still single and they come to me and they're like, Alex, what should I be doing? And I'm like, get on Tinder. I know that you guys can vet people before you go on dates with them. Then all of a sudden, you're not wasting a Friday night. You're having the best time on a Friday night with this date. Tinder cares about every step of your dating journey, and it has plenty of unique safety features like Are You Sure, which vibe checks any messages that seem a bit risky and helps keep message threads a safer place to start a conversation. Share My Date lets your friends know about your plans, and Noonlight discreetly connects you with help if you need it. I want all of you going on dates, Daddy Gang, and having so much fun, and Tinder has your back. You are actually going to be able to be present and focus on your date because of all these safety features put in place. So explore all the possibilities for yourself. It starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today. From what we can see online, when your relationship ended, you were in Tokyo together. What was the state of your relationship when you were going into that trip?
It was great. I mean, we were literally talking about engagement, marriage, all the things on that trip. We had been together since I think it was like January 3rd. I met him in London.
Okay.
So we were in London having a great time. And then we went from London to Tokyo, just because we had the time and we had these like flight vouchers that were expiring for like an international flight. And Japan is like my favorite country in the entire world. So we were like, let's just do it while we can. So it was very unplanned, very last minute trip, but it was fun, exciting.
Yeah.
You know, everything was great. There was nothing wrong.
So we're in Tokyo.
Mhm.
Everything's going fine.
Mhm.
What happens?
So it's just so hard to grasp because I don't even know if like he knew it was coming. Like or if it was like he of the moment. I don't know. So everything was fine. The night before, we didn't have an argument, but I was feeling very overwhelmed. I was like trying so hard to find like a good dinner spot for us because the spot we ended up wanting to go to was closed or something. So we were scrambling. And I was putting so much pressure on finding a good spot because he cares. Like, this is like his career, you know, like going to good food spots. So
He would do like a review if you guys got there of like food.
Anywhere we would go if it was good, like literally every single meal that we would have, we were filming. So yeah, I think I just put so much pressure on myself to find good spots if I'm the one that's finding a spot. So on top of that, I just started my period. I felt terrible. Like
Mhm.
just was having like a rough few hours, I guess. And
Yeah.
I remember asking him to help me find a spot. And he was like, no, like I think he was like doing something else on his phone and he was like, it doesn't matter where we go. Like we can go literally anywhere, just like pick somewhere. He kept saying like it's not a big deal, it doesn't matter. But I felt like it was a big deal and that it did matter. So we get to this place. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Um, and it was just one of those things where I'm like tired, cranky, emotional, on my period, feeling terrible, overwhelmed with looking for a dinner spot for like an hour. And then we get there and it was a disappointment. So then I started tearing up at dinner. 2 tears, 1, 2, we're done. Didn't, allow myself to get upset after that. Just tried to calm down. We went home and
Did he say anything?
no, didn't say anything. But in the past, if I have like a little meltdown like that, or if I'm feeling overwhelmed or anything, he just like lets me move through the motions, get it all out of my system, and then, okay, I'm ready to talk. Like something like that.
So dinner, like, did you guys have like normal
No,
conversation?
we didn't even talk. Like we just sat there, had dinner, got into the Uber.
Wait, Rachel, why did you feel so upset about like the menu not being good?
I felt like whenever we would go somewhere and it was bad, it was just disappointing because I think like we're on trips, it's like every meal counts. Like
Mhm.
every dinner, everywhere we go, it counts. Or it's important.
Mhm.
Because only have so many meals in the day. And this sounds crazy, but as like a food person,
Yeah.
I'm trying to just make sure that he's getting good content for our trip and stuff because I know like it's important to him and that it's something that we'll both post about.
Mhm.
So I'm just feeling bad, I guess, that it was a bad spot. And then
Are you feeling like you're disappointing him?
yeah, I guess. I guess. Yeah, disappointing him or just yeah, like I think he was just like what is the big deal? So we finally get to the hotel and I give him a hug and I could just tell like he was just like, you know, not very comforting and I'm like, "Are you mad at me?" And he was like, "I'm just so confused like why you were so upset. Like what was that?" And I explained to him I'm like, "I felt like I had let you down. Like I felt like that was disappointing and I hate going to a place that isn't somewhere that like you could post about. I feel like it's a waste." And he just was trying to tell me like it's not that serious. Like it's not that big of a deal. But then he was concerned about me getting so upset. He was like, that was like, there was no reason for you to get upset like that. And he found it concerning that I got that emotional, I guess. And so then and he just was trying to express to me, like, if you get emotional about little things like this, like, what is going to happen in life when something really terrible happens? Like, how are you going to be able to react to things that are actually really scary or disappointing or sad? And I think, like, I don't know, it just hurt to hear because I'm like, I probably would react to things that are terrible in a sad way. Like, what do you mean? I don't know. It felt like I was being punished for crying. It was just so weird. I don't know. Still don't really know that whole situation. I just was really confused by his reaction.
And in the past, like, how does Matt usually respond when you are upset?
He'll let me, like, he'll give me my space.
Do you
And
want space?
no, no, I don't. I like want to be comforted, but for some reason, Matt always thought that I'd need space. And then we'd talk about it after, even though I would tell him, like, I don't want you to, like, give me my space because then I feel like I'm not getting any support, or like comfort from you. Um, but that was just something that he thought like he just needed me to calm down and then we would talk and everything would be okay.
So this happens, and then literally the next day, the breakup.
Yes.
So you wake up
hmm
the next morning. What are the vibes? Is he tense? Are you guys acting weird? Like, take me
No.
through that whole day.
Everything was fine. Like when we went to bed, he was saying like it's okay, it's okay. So um I just let it go. He let it go. It was totally fine the next day.
Okay.
And I think it was one of those things where I mean, literally a few days before we're talking about how he feels lucky to have me as a partner and that, there's just like so many qualities that he loves that I have and that, we see relationships with other people where they deal with a lot and um or put up with a lot of things and he's like it's just so nice that, I just feel like very lucky that I can call you my partner. And that was so crazy to think like that was like 2 days before the breakup.
Yeah.
And that morning, everything was fine. We were in good moods. And I think it was one of those things where it was just a little, maybe a little arguments open up a can of worms.
Mm.
So we were on the way to get some food. And I was like scrolling through my phone, showing him a bunch of videos. I guess I was bothering him, I was annoying him. And he he didn't snap at me, but he basically was like, "Okay," kinda snapped at me to where I got mad at him because I was like, "Even if I'm annoying you, like, don't treat me like that." And so then it seemed like we were both kind of, like, mad at each other or annoyed with each other. So when we got to this place, it was just this big market with a bunch of different food and everything. So we get there and I just walk off and go do my own thing for a second. I'm picking up like chopsticks and things for my friends, and he's going to find this like matcha spot that he was really excited to try. So we kind of just get there and split up for a little bit, which wasn't, normal. Like
Mhm.
usually we would be doing these things together.
And how do you feel in that moment? Like, do you have a pit in your stomach? Are you like, something's off?
No, I just was like, I didn't think anything like too
Mhm.
much of it. I really didn't. I just was annoyed with him. That's all. Like I was annoyed with him and he was annoyed with me. Like it really didn't even seem like that big of a deal. It was just one of those things where you're just like, at that point we had been together nonstop for like 3 weeks and I think like you just get annoyed with each other about little things.
Mhm.
And I think that's where we were. We were just like irritated with one another with little things. But I didn't think anything of it. It was what it was. And then we had some food, we got back in the car, and I just was being really quiet, and he was like, "Can I ask, like, why you're being so quiet?" And I was like, I feel like you're irritated with me right now, and I don't really, like, want to say anything if I don't have to say anything because I just don't wanna bug you. Like, I just don't really wanna chat right now if there's nothing I have to say because I just wanna try and, like, give you your space because I feel like you're annoyed with me right now. And, that is just, like, what opened up everything. And we had gotten into an argument right then and there, like, walking in the street. We skipped lunch, we went back to the hotel, and just ended up having, like, a bigger conversation. I think that's what I was saying, like, can of worms where it wasn't a big deal, we were just a little irritated with one another, but then it was like, "Okay, now that we're back here again where like you're annoyed with me, I'm annoyed with you. I feel like you're in the wrong. You feel like I'm in the wrong." Um, he really just kind of let out everything that I guess he had been feeling for a while. I don't know.
Can you share some of that?
Yeah, I mean, he said that at the end of the day, there were just qualities about me that he worries about having in a wife. Like at the end of the day, like there are things that we aren't compatible with, and like the whole accountability and saying sorry and all that was really the main thing. And yeah, it was just one of those things where I think, just had this realization that I should want to propose to you by this time. Like at this point in our relationship, I should be wanting those things. And I should be ready for that, but I'm not still. I still don't feel like we're ready, or I don't feel like I'm ready. I don't know if I ever see myself proposing to you. I can't actually see myself married to you. Um, he said that, maybe one day he would get there, but he doesn't feel ready now. And I told him, I said, well, I feel like after 4 years, you should know, or you should feel ready. And if you don't, then that's not a good thing. We probably shouldn't be together if you don't feel like that after 4 years, because you know me better than anyone. I know you better than anyone. So you should know by now if you see this for the long haul or not. And it was just one of those things where it was like, do you want to make this work? Like, do you think that it's me, or is it something with you? Like, are you scared, or is it really me? Like, is your perfect person somewhere out there? Is it not me? And yeah, he came to the conclusion that he didn't think it was me, and that he said like he just didn't want me to end up resenting him by like wasting more of my time if it wouldn't happen. Um and yeah, he just said, you're beautiful, smart, and funny, and you'll find someone, you'll find a guy that will love you for you. But yeah, he just didn't think that it was him. But it was just really it's just a lot to hear at once, because a few days before, I'm hearing the opposite.
In that moment, Rachel, were you like vocalizing like anything in terms of like why have you been so vocal? Like I've seen him on podcasts and he's commented in random like fan accounts being like engagements coming soon. Like
Yeah.
he's been overly vocal more than you about like telling the world like, oh, it's coming, like it's
Yeah.
coming, which like is a little odd. I'm not gonna lie. Like in my opinion, I was like, like how much he was speaking about it, and yet like now what you're sharing for him to just like quickly be like, never mind. Like in that moment where you're like, then why have you been saying this? Why did 2 days ago you say I was like the perfect partner with you?
I think because he I think it's because he did love me, or does really love me. And I think he wanted it to work out. And like I think he wanted to picture it. And it was one of those things where it was like, well, it would definitely be easy too. Like it just would make sense. And that was like the next steps naturally in our relationship. And he does love me to where I think he just wanted it to work. But I guess at the end of the day, like as much as he wanted it to work and as much as he loves me, he still just doesn't think that I'm like the person for him. And so I think maybe he was just trying to see if he could get there or convince himself that it was the right thing. But yeah, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I still don't know. Like, I don't know if he reacted out of anger or spite, or if he didn't mean it. Um, and to be totally honest with you, if he didn't post it so publicly, like right after he broke up with me, I don't even know where we'd be right now. Because I think when someone tells you that to your face, like, I don't think you're my person, I don't ever picture us getting married, it's your time to walk away. Like, I can't stick around after that, even if I want to, like, even if it's hard for me to let go. And like, I love him so much and I wanted him to be my partner. But yeah, I think when someone says that to you, it's like, what else?
What else can you do?
Yeah, you have to give it up at that point.
When you were hearing him say all of this to you, like what was going through your head?
Um, honestly, I think like I was worried that he thought that for a little while. Like, I guess in the back of my mind, I always wondered if he had doubts or like, yeah, just had doubts about me being his person. And I only had those doubts because, the actions, like I said, weren't following up with his words. So I'm like, I feel like I just want to be with someone who like is so excited to be with me and wants to marry me and is excited to, start a life with me. And I feel like it was definitely one of those things with him where I could feel like he was nervous, but I just always told myself he was nervous because of like how he grew up and he didn't want to end up like his father or just didn't want to like end up in like a broken home. Um and that he took it really, really seriously, which he would probably say the same thing, that he just puts so much weight on it because he never wants to do to his family what his dad did to them. But I also told myself that I think like sometimes that put like a hindrance on our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wondered like, is it me or is it
Yeah.
something that like we need to like work through together?
So at the end of this conversation, is it like, okay, so we're breaking up?
It ended with him saying, you're beautiful, smart, funny, you'll find someone. I'll never say a bad thing about you. And yeah, we're done. And I literally said, okay. I said, okay. Didn't say anything else. I just said, okay. And then I got my suitcase, went down to the lobby, got in a car, went to the airport.
Did you have a ticket?
Yeah, so I had to leave a day before.
Okay.
I was trying to make it home for a baby shower that I did not end up going to.
He did this right before he knew you were having to go to the airport to fly from Tokyo to Atlanta.
Yes. So that was, yeah, I just like couldn't believe it. Um, Going to the airport, I was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. Like, were you in shock? Were
Yeah,
you crying?
both. Just like pure shock, so much confusion. Obviously sad because of everything he just said to me. Very, very hurtful, which
Yeah.
here's the thing. He's allowed to feel like that. If that's really how he feels, you're so allowed to feel like that. I wouldn't want someone to propose to me and be married to me just because they felt like they have to, even though they didn't feel like they wanted to. So at the end of the day, if that's really how he felt, then he is so valid to feel like that. And at least we figured that out before we were
Yes.
married or
But it
anything.
also doesn't take away from the fact, Rachel, that like it seems like you were completely blindsided.
I mean, yes, it was definitely out of nowhere. I don't think he was planning on doing it. I think that it was one of those things where he just came to this realization during our argument. I don't know.
So we have to talk about his breakup post because without a doubt, it is one of the weirder, cryptic. I mean, people on the internet are like, this is going to go down in history as like one of the weirdest Instagram breakup posts I've ever seen. Can you talk to me about like where were you when you saw this post?
So I had just gotten to the airport and, checked my bags, everything, got on the flight,
Okay.
and I'm in my seat. And for some reason, my phone, I think it's because I downloaded a VPN on my phone a few years ago, and now for whatever reason, it cannot connect to plain Wi-Fi. It
Okay.
just can't. I don't know why. So whenever I take these long flights, like, I'm off the grid. So, we're literally getting ready to take off, and my phone blows up. It's one of my best friends, and it says Rach with a bunch of question marks. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how does she know?" And then she texted me again and said, "I saw Matt's post. Is this real life?" And that's how I found out that he posted. So then, literally, the plane is taking off, and I see his post, and that's it. I'm I don't have any service or anything for like the next 12 hours. So I'm freaking out because, just got broken up with. And now, a few hours later, it's like for the whole world to see. And I'm still like trying to process it. Like I'm still in like total shock. So then knowing like the whole world is seeing this, I'm like, this is so crazy. I can't even wrap my mind around this right now. And I think that's why, I didn't say anything, still haven't, like, made a statement or anything because 'cause I'm processing this just like everyone else is. Like, I'm a week out of this, you know?
So what would you say, like 2 hours after
I would say, like, yeah, 2 or 3 hours
he
after.
posted that?
Mhm.
When you read the post, what went through your mind? Like, what did you think of the post?
I don't know, I honestly didn't think I guess I was so freaked out about the breakup itself, and then just now knowing that I'm gonna have to navigate this very publicly. Um, that's kind of all I was thinking. I wasn't even like analyzing the post like everyone
Yeah.
else was.
Yeah.
So I guess it was kind of funny just to see what people had to say. Like people thought it was weird that it was a bachelor photo because we definitely like tried to remove ourselves from the show.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it was interesting to see the caption only because I feel like there was no, I don't know how to explain it. I guess it almost seemed like saying it like a prayer was the easier way to say it than to like say something like real. Not that a
No,
prayer
but
is
yeah.
not real, but just something like authentic to like our actual relationship. Um, but it's very him. Like I guess it didn't surprise me that he said it like that. I guess I was just surprised that he said it at all, that he posted that. Um,
Why do you think he posted that?
I would love to know. I don't know. I don't know if it was out of just him being so worked up, if it was out of anger, or if it was one of those things where he felt like he needed to do it to really like finally just
End
like
it.
put a nail in the coffin. But I have spoken with him since all of that, and I do know that he definitely acknowledges that that was not
The right
the right
decision.
decision.
So we're gonna get to that because I'm just thinking, one, was there any part of you on this 12-hour plane ride, one that wanted to be like, "Sir, can I borrow your phone?" Like, were you I would have been like just to even see, like, were you worried about what people were saying or no, you were just still like,
Oh,
I
no, I was worried. It's definitely yeah, it was one of those things where maybe this ties into my insecurities from the very beginning, but I just felt like there was gonna be people, like, celebrating
Mm.
him breaking up with me. I don't know. I don't know. I definitely didn't think that or just, like, people just sad, just like, "Oh, like, so sorry for you guys, like, sad to hear this, but, like, wishing you both the best moving forward." I didn't expect it to
Yeah.
be this, like, people getting mad about the posts like
Mhm.
that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, sitting here and listening to it, I know there's, like, different steps basically to, like, grieving a breakup, but I can't help but be mad for you because you guys have been together for 4 years, you've traveled many times together. That man knows that your phone doesn't work on Wi-Fi on long flights.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like when I step back and really look at everything, I'm mad. Like, yes, that's fucked up. Like, he should not have done that to me after 4 years.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have. Like, he didn't even text me to give me a warning, like, saying, like, hey, I'm posting this. So it just hurt to know that, like, that's how my friends found out, and my family, and, like, my little sister. And that I didn't even, like, get to talk to them about it or just, like, grieve privately for, like, a day,
Yeah.
you know? So even, like, landing was just so scary. Just, like, the anxiety that came over me knowing I was, like, about to get service back, and I didn't know what I was about to see, and I just knew my phone was gonna be blown up from all my friends and my family and everything. So that hurt,
What
and that was
happened when you landed? Like, did you get an Uber home? Who did you go to first? Who did you talk to?
I landed, and I did have my car at the airport, so I was driving home, and at this point, I think the post went up, like, 6 a.m. US time or, like, New York time, so I think I landed at, like, 6 p.m., so it had been, like, all day. My friends were waiting to hear from me. So
Rachel.
I got in my car, and I just, like, did a voice memo and just let them know what happened. And, yeah, I just went home, and, you know, by the time I got home, it was, like, 8 or 9 o'clock, so I just went straight to sleep because I was exhausted, and when I'm depressed, I just, like, completely
Yeah.
shut down, and I just sleep, and I don't get out of bed, so I did that.
Did you text him? Like, what the
No.
hell? You didn't text him.
No. No, I just felt like the best thing at the time was just to not talk to him, and because he didn't give me the decency to, like, give me a heads up or even just give me a few days. Like, it's one thing to I don't even think you should post a breakup announcement the same day you break up,
No.
but let alone, you know, not even give me a warning that you're doing it. So yeah, I just went home, slept for, like, what felt like, 48 hours, and then finally woke up to my sister coming in my room. She has a key to my house, so she, like, let herself in and, like, woke me up and hung out with me for, like, the next few days, and then I finally, like, told my friends I could see them and hang out with them on Saturday. It was the first time I saw some of my friends just because I just needed just to be by myself for a bit and just not talk about it or think about it. I just wasn't ready to, like, debrief, and, like,
Mhm.
I think when you talk about it, it just feels more real. So I just wasn't ready to, like, accept it, I guess.
When breakups also happen, I think one of the biggest mind fucks is like you're sitting there, you're laying in your bed, you're so upset, and the one person that you like want
Yeah.
to talk to is the person that just hurt you,
Yep.
who reached out first and like
Yeah, that was so hard. I
Mhm.
completely agree with that, where it's like I'm laying in bed and I want him to comfort me, but he's the one that hurt me. And I'm so mad at him, but I'm also still, like, so sad. And of course, like, I still love him. So, yeah, just a lot of emotions to work through. And I woke up at, like, at 1 in the morning, and I had a missed call from him. This was, I don't know, like, 4, 5 days after maybe
Okay.
from the post. And so I called him back because I just didn't know why he was calling me. I didn't know if he was giving me a heads up about something or if he needed something or if he was just calling to talk. I didn't know. So I called him back just to see what he wanted. And he just asked how I was doing, which I'm like, how do you think I'm doing? Like, what?
Right.
Um, and then, yeah, I confronted him about the post. Just said, like, that really sucked. And that's when he was like, yeah, I fully admit that I could have handled this a lot better. And he apologized. And, sometimes people, when they're in a really bad state or they're really, really angry or really, really upset, you make mistakes or you don't handle things in the best way you can. But I don't think that, I just, I don't want people thinking that, like, he's this bad guy or that he's, like, not, I don't know, considerate of my feelings or whatever, because he is a good guy at the end of the day. But obviously he made a mistake doing that, but I think he knows that, and I think he regrets it. So, yeah, it's just hard because 'cause I'm like, I probably wouldn't even be sitting here if he didn't do that.
Yeah.
So, it's just a lot to, like, process and work through.
Well, no, and I also just want to say, like, this is why social media is so confusing because on one hand, I agree. It's like we probably wouldn't be sitting here if he didn't post that. But also, it's like knowing that you are going to at one point have to speak. And I think we kind of like were talking about that before this of like maybe it is nice to just like sit down and even though it's still so fresh, like I think there's a chance you're going to look back on this interview in a year, even 6 months and watch some of your responses and be like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't see it then." You know what I mean? Like everyone has that, Rachel. Like I've literally done that in every relationship I've ever been in and so does everyone in the world. Like you are still in this like grieving period clearly and you're still even like understandably like the way that you're defending him. I'm not saying he doesn't warrant it. It's actually just like when you're getting out of a relationship, you're still kind of in the relationship.
Yeah.
Like that you were together for 4 years. It's been what? 2 weeks? 1 week?
Yeah.
Not even.
Not even 2 weeks, yeah.
Not even 2 weeks. So it's like I think a lot of this is on one hand, there's the part of that me feels bad of like we're having this so fresh that like of course you're not going to have like all the answers or the insight or whatever,
Yeah.
but I do think hopefully this conversation is going to like alleviate you from listen, Bachelor Nation is amazing. They're also very intense. And I feel like every single thing you would type would get picked apart. Like there was no, we talked about this. There wasn't going to be like a perfect Instagram post or caption or comment you could leave that would like leave people feeling like they have an understanding. Not that they deserve it, but they feel like they do because of the way that your guys' relationship started so publicly.
Yeah.
So I think it's this like mixed bag of emotions.
Yeah.
When you were finishing like that call with him, like where did you guys leave it? Like what did you say?
We left it like it's so weird. I was about to say like I just wish we could somehow be friends because he was my best friend and it hurts to not have him as my best friend anymore. But that's like how we left it. Like we were just talking like everything was okay. I asked him like how his last day was in Tokyo and like, he filled me in on like what he did and then um yeah, we were just talking like, everything was fine and he ended up falling asleep because I called him back at like 1 a.m. because both of our jet lag was so crazy at the time. And yeah, he ended up like falling asleep and I just hung up and that's that.
How long was the conversation?
It was pretty long. It was like over an hour at least.
Did you guys talk about like, are you going to do no contact for a little bit? Or you?
No, we didn't discuss that. I think like that's something that we probably have to do. We haven't talked a lot. Like he's called me every like few days just to make sure I'm okay, but I told him that he didn't need to do that. The last time we spoke, I was like, you don't need to like call and check up on me, like I'll be okay. And so that. But yeah, I don't know I don't know if he's feeling bad or if he just wants to see where I'm at. I don't know.
In your head right now, like if you're being really, really honest with yourself,
Mm.
do you think there's any chance you guys ever get back together?
I don't think I can, which is sad. Um, I don't think I can because I think when someone says those things that he said, like, I don't think you're my person. I don't see us getting married. I think that's when you like have to call it quits. And then, yeah, just the way that he handled all of this and his posts and everything, like, I forgive him, but I just don't think I can be with someone that I felt like he disrespected me at the end of the day doing that. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where you, like, have to stand up for yourself even if you don't want to. Like, of course, there's part of me that wishes that we could just get back together and pretend none of this ever happened. But, yeah, that's not the case, and I think as hard as it is, I think the right decision is to just stand up for myself and be on my own.
I was going to say, like, I'm so impressed by one, just like how you're handling everything, because I think a lot of people listening right now, understandably, are going to like dissect what you've been saying
Mhm.
and they're going to judge certain things you've said. They're going to try to analyze things you've said. I've even been trying to do it. I'm like, oh, I have an opinion on that and that. But then I'm
Yeah.
also like, it's not my life. This is your life. And I also, again, recognize like this is so fresh for you.
Mhm.
I do just have to say, in the most painful way, and I don't think the way he did it was right. I do think you're going to look back and you are going to be so fucking grateful
Mhm.
that he posted, not how he did it, not the way he did it, but the fact that he did it and put it out there, because I think we all can feel it when there's love and when there's history and when there's not something huge that happened of like cheating or whatever. It's so hard not to go back.
Yeah.
It is easier to go back than to stay away because it's your comfort. It's the person that you love. It's the person you've cried with. It's the person that you've envisioned having kids with and a life with and a marriage with and a wedding with and all the best things that come with life. You've pictured it with this person. You've spoken about it with this person. So the fact that you now have to be kind of just cut off from this,
Yeah.
I do think it will be a blessing for you, Rachel, that like you will look back and be like, I don't know anyone that maybe would have been as strong if that post didn't go up to not go back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like you said, you're like, I don't know if he did it in the heat of the moment. I couldn't really tell if we were really breaking up in that moment or if he was just angry. Like, you do deserve someone that without a doubt wants to be with you and wants to start a life with you and wants to build a family and all the great things. And you're right, it doesn't make him a bad person, but just from like another woman sitting across from you, like why I said like it'll be interesting if you look back on this in 6 months, it's like there are a lot of things you're saying that as a girl sitting across from you, I'm like, babe,
Stand up.
you deserve so much fucking better. And it doesn't mean he has to be then deemed a dick. It's just
Yeah.
like objectively, you deserve so much better. Like you annoying him or he not, like all these little things that I know we're only getting like basically 1%. Understandably, you're not going to like share your whole relationship, but like you deserve so much better. And you should not have to feel like you're in doubt. You should not have to feel like you are second to him and like there's a power imbalance. Like you shouldn't have to feel like that. And I know I don't need to like preach to you, but I just want you, I can tell it's hard right now.
No, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying. Like, I definitely have an attachment to him right now. I mean, how can you not when you spend, every day with someone for 4 years straight? And I do love him so much. But yeah, it's just one of those things where maybe in another universe we worked out and things were okay. But it just really sucks to like step back and look at how things ended up for us. It's just like heartbreaking. But yeah, I just think I do need to just stand up for myself and tell myself that what he did wasn't okay and that I just need to try and move on.
I also think like to everyone listening and even us having this conversation right now, like I almost started crying when you were like, like those like children that we envisioned creating together like no longer will exist. Like it's devastating. Like it's absolutely heartbreaking. But I also think when you get broken up with
Mhm.
and you're forced to move forward, I think you're going to have a lot of beautiful reflection, not even on that relationship, but of yourself. Like,
Mhm.
even just like in the past almost 2 weeks, like, has there been anything that you looked at where 4 years is a long time? Like, do you think there's any part of yourself that you compromised or you lost within that relationship? Because when you're in a partnership, you do compromise.
Yeah. I'm sure. I think that's something that with time I'll start to
Mhm.
realize, but I think like when have talked to my friends about it, I think that they definitely said like it just seemed like you were always like giving 110%, but it was difficult for him to like reciprocate it at times. Like it was like pulling teeth to try and get him to come to a wedding with me and just like little things like that. And I love to think I'm this like, like badass independent woman, but I definitely would say that I like compromise my values at times because I felt like that was the right thing to do in the moment. Um, it was definitely like, he was like not the one in charge or anything, but he definitely took lead and I just wanted to support him through everything, whatever that was, and I didn't mind, letting him have the spotlight, I guess, if that makes sense. That's poor wording, but
No, I get what you're saying. Like, just to back you up there, like, a lot of what you've shared with me today is like, a lot of it's been on Matt's terms. It's like, if it's good for Matt, then you're being a supportive partner. But
yeah.
at what point is it like, what does Rachel want? And like,
Yeah.
why don't you get to call some of the shots?
Yeah.
And like, what would make you happy? And like, why are you having to beg him to do certain things? And then when he ever wants to do things, you're like, I'm ready to go. Like, I think that's where I can feel it. Every woman in America watching this is going to be like, Rachel, I cannot wait. And I know this is so premature to even be saying, but like, you've said it to your friends before. We've all said it to our friends when they go through a breakup. And because I've lived it and you're about to live it, where it's like, you're going to feel the difference
Mm-hmm.
when you meet a guy that is all about you and has no doubts.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take away from what you and Matt had, but like, you are, like he said, you are so beautiful and smart and interesting. And you're like a great person. I can already tell, we just met. And I'm like, you're great. You're great. Someone's going to be so lucky. And that is how you should feel in the relationship, where it's like reciprocal, not you keeping like, wait for me. Like, wait, what about that?
Yeah.
Like, you deserve that.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves that.
Mm.
Again, it doesn't make him a bad person, but
Mm.
maybe this is like the biggest blessing that needed to happen in order for you to finally find that partnership that is 50-50, where you do feel like you have a voice of value and you
Yeah,
get
of
to
course.
stand up for yourself in moments and be like, hey, no, I don't need to take accountability, because why are we having this conversation? Because you made me upset over this. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
little things that will come, and I'm still working on it and I'm married. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's like,
Mhm.
it's tough though.
Yeah.
Why did you want to speak on this today? I know I've spoken a bunch, but like, why did you want to speak on this today?
I feel like well, when you reached out to me, I just really thought about it and I felt like it needed to have a longer conversation than just, a little story or a caption or there was so much to it and a lot to break down and I wanted to do this for me. I felt like I needed to do it to get some closure with everything. And I did want to do it for, anyone else who cared. Like you said, like we did have a very public relationship and we did have a lot of people supporting us. And I know at the end of the day, like the only people who really matter in the relationship is you and the other person. But I did just, I saw all these rumors and the speculation and the theories and all of this craziness. And I just wanted to get the true story out there and just share my side of it in case anyone is going through anything similar or if they just feel lost, confused, blindsided, anything. And if anyone can take something away from this, then, I'm glad I came. But yeah, I just really wanted to do it just to help myself move on and get some closure. And I just feel like after 4 years and after all this craziness, something just needed to be said.
No, I really appreciate you being so open, because I'm aware, like, if we had this interview even in like a year from now, I bet if I asked you these same exact questions, maybe 75% of the answers could be really different.
Yeah.
Which is the beautiful part of life and time, of you just being like, you're in it right now, you're in the grieving stage, and slowly more things are going to become more apparent to you. And I really respect how thoughtful you're being about the way you speak about him. And I think, Daddy Gang listening, like, once you go through a breakup, now you get to just fully focus on yourself. And I know that
I am
probably,
excited for that.
yeah, and I know it probably feels weird a little bit because you've been in a partnership where for
Yeah.
4 years it's been like me and him, me and him. But now I think in a fun way, it's like taking this and knowing all the things of how he didn't make you feel good, or when moments where you felt like shit, and then the good.
Yeah.
And basically know like what you want next in a partner. I'm sure there's things that you're like, oh, I have to have that. Matt had that one thing of whether he's funny or whether it's that, and you're going to look for that. But then let's be real, you got a list now of things that you're like, I will not put up with that in my next relationship, as you should.
Yeah.
As you should. Is there anything else, just in terms of whether it was like rumors that you wanted to just like dispel, that you've read that you were like, wait, that's so not true, that you were like, should we just put an end to it?
I'm trying to think. Like, I've seen so much crazy stuff. I tried not to look, but then when I realized we were doing this, I was like, okay, I definitely just want to see like what is being discussed.
Yep.
And I think the only thing that made me really sad reading was people saying that he cheated, or that I insinuated that he cheated, because he did not cheat. I don't think he ever cheated. I don't think that, at the end of the day, he's at least a good enough guy to be faithful. Like, I never worried about that. And so I just don't want people thinking that he was this like unfaithful guy that, broke my trust or cheated on me or anything. But it's also kind of fun to like tell myself that, I can find myself again and get back to just, loving me and finding my own confidence, because I think it's been missing for 4 years. I'm not saying that's his fault, but there was probably a lot of stuff that I needed to work through from the show that I never have. So, yeah, I guess in a way I'm just excited to work on myself.
I also will say, just girl advice. Don't let him keep coming back in. I so know what you mean by you want to be friends, because how can you envision a world, not only not him being your friend, but like without him? I get that.
You're gonna make me cry.
No, I know. I'm going to cry, because we've all been there. It's like, it's unfathomable to be like, Matt's not in my life anymore. But what I will say is, like, from experience, I feel like sometimes the person that ends the relationship has the guilt. Like, there's guilt that, and he keeps calling you to check in. And unfortunately, it's going to be on you to have to be like, one, he's moving on, right? But he's also checking in on you.
Yeah.
It's going to prolong you being able to actually be like, okay, I have to cut ties. And sometimes it does take no contact, because it's like, how can you have someone in your life that you did everything with, you loved all of it, and still be cordial while you're trying to move on? I don't think that it doesn't mean you can't in a couple years like see each other out or at a bar and so be cordial and but I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think friends, at least in the very beginning, is going to allow you, if we're being selfish for you for a minute, to move on. You got to.
No, and that's why I told him, I said, you don't have to call me and check in on me. Like, I'll be okay. Because, I do agree. I think that, like, even just hearing his voice on the phone, it's just really hard, and it makes me miss him. But
I promise you, the best part, and everyone that's gone through this, you know what I'm talking about, is like, you're literally like, no, I literally can't live without him. Like, how is my life going to go on? Like, he's my best friend. He's my everything.
Yeah.
And then when you do no contact, all of a sudden, whether you're like at the nail salon one day, or you're walking down the street, or you're at a friend's birthday party, or having a wine night with your girls, you're going to like smile to yourself and you're like, oh my God, I haven't thought of him in like weeks. I haven't thought of him, or even if it's days, you know what I mean? Like it's slow wins, but then all of a sudden you move on. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
You are such a sweet person, and I'm really, really, really sorry that this happened to you. But like I said, like, girl, we're getting back out there.
Yeah.
It is only the beginning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.